It is time now for our Thursday morning edition of our news. Did you hear that Japan had to scramble fighter jets to intercept 3 Russian strategic bombers? These are the same kind of bombers that are equipped to handle nuclear payloads. Right, this is like really old school technology. This is like Cold War kind of stuff. Russia actually stopped doing those patrols back in the 1990s, early 2000s. They resumed. I think they did one in 2015. They did one in 2016, like literally a year ago in January. And now they did one just this week on Tuesday, I believe, in which the Japanese fighter jets went up and scrambled to go and intercept them. They are actually still in international airspace when this happened. So they didn't actually, go into Japanese airspace, but it was a little disconcerting for everybody involved. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has warned that the West is going to have to pay dearly for stoking the revolutions in the Middle East. He's not talking about in terms of a specific, you did this here, therefore you need to pay for that there. He's talking about it more in terms of the generalities, and I think if we look at it rationally and logically, that he has a good point, that when any country interferes with the internal operations of another sovereign country and determines for the people there that their ruler is no longer fit to rule and topples that regime, either in any way, shape, or form, whether it's an assassination or whether it is some kind of a revolution. And this Arab Spring is what Lavrov is referring to and saying, basically, look, the United States was behind it, and the United States is going to reap the consequences of it. The head of the Ministry of Defense has apparently insulted the crew of the Admiral Kuznetsov. That was the Russian ship that went between it went through the British Channel on the way, the English Channel on its way back to Russia. He called it a ship of shame as it was returning from its mission in Syria. And so now Russia says, you have insulted the crew. Back in America, Trump has issued yet another executive order. It seems like every day of his presidency there are a few more executive orders coming out, and he's not even done with his first week yet. This one, to build a wall. He's actually going through with the Mexican border wall, as he pledged during his campaign promises, and a lot of people are really, really, really excited about that. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media and comments and news stories where people are like, yeah, build the wall. And I went and I looked through the archives, some of the pictures taken in the 1940s when they built the wall in Berlin. And I'm just wondering if anybody sees a connection there. The King of Jordan, by the way, officially has thanked Russia for their role in resolving the Syrian conflict. And the New Yorker had a report that was picked up in Russia, actually, about how the Silicon Valley is preparing for some sort of Armageddon. The billionaires building themselves bunkers, whether they are anticipating some kind of nuclear war or whether they're anticipating some kind of a rise up of the proletariat, the underclass that has seen this great divide between the wealthy in the United States and the poor. Look, the fact of the matter is that somebody with money buying a bunker, there are an awful lot of people in Alaska that do that without a whole lot of money. Just saying. Also, the North Korean elite apparently is turning against their supreme leader, Kim Jong-un, according to a defector. And Serbia. There's questions now on the international scene of whether they're playing some kind of double game as they've opened the borders with Kosovo, and then, of course, sending that train into Kosovo that says on the side very clearly, Kosovo is Serbia. Television icon Mary Tyler Moore passed away. A lot of folks obviously focusing on that today instead of the fact that the Japanese fighter jets intercepted the Russian bombers or that Trump has ordered the wall to be built. I mean, look, Mary Tyler Moore was an actress. She was a dancer. She was my first crush. But she was just a person. And, by the way, the cries of voter fraud, as the Trump administration continues to pound away on one of his own advisors, Steve Bannon, is registered to vote in 2 different states, which would be voter fraud according to Trump's definition of it. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on those stories for you. And my commentary today is going to be focusing specifically on gun control measures that are being introduced here in Alaska. And you'll get my 2 cents on that. Love to engage you on it. Send me an email if you've got a news tip, steve@radiofreespeech.com. And by the way, I have only scratched the surface. I've got a 30-minute version of the news on audio only, which I send out to all of my subscribers. If you'd like to be a part of that, send me a subscription. You'll find it there on the subscribe page at radiofreespeech.com. Also, of course, you can join me on Patreon, and there are many more options. Send me an email. I'll tell you about them. Steve at radiofreespeech.com. Thanks.